What is going on, eaters and feeders? This episode is going to be about ghost kitchens, restaurants, catering companies, and why they should add a meal prep service to their existing business. And I'm also going to go over some pointers on how to do that. But before we get started, if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. My name is Casey. I'm one of the founders of Florida's highest rated meal prep companies. And on this channel, we discuss how to start and grow meal prep services. We discuss all sorts of aspects about being an entrepreneur, little tips and tricks that are applicable to a bunch of different businesses, as well as some personal life navigation kind of stuff. So if that sounds like something that would be interesting to you, I invite you to subscribe and hit those alerts because I put out content weekly and I also go live sporadically, and I don't want you to miss out on anything. I would love to have more back and forth engagement when I go live so I can answer your questions right away and just have more interaction with my audience, being you. But without further ado, let's jump into the episode.
Welcome to our channel where we go behind the scenes for meal plan company Fit Food Fresh and other local businesses across South Florida. Make sure you hit the subscribe and alerts so you never miss a video, and hit us with any questions or suggestions.
So recently, I've been contacted by catering companies and restaurants who are interested in getting into the meal prep business. And I think it's a great move. It's something that I was preaching before this whole event that we've got going on in 2020. Before all that started, it was still a really good idea that I was preaching. And now I think a lot more businesses and business owners are putting that on their radar as a potential way to creatively increase their revenue. And that's probably one of the first reasons. I'm going to cover why, as well as how to, some tips and tricks on where you would start if you are an existing meal company, an existing food company, I should say. Whether you're a restaurant, a cafe, a catering company, a ghost kitchen, if you're producing food right now and you're not doing it with a meal prep model, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, really. So first and foremost, we're talking about getting the rev up. You know, this is a great way to increase the money that you're taking in, and with that, profit. You'll also be able to purchase more efficiently. With the meal prep model, what's beautiful about it is you're getting paid in advance. Very unlike a lot of, well, maybe caterers. Caterers do get paid in advance. So it's taking the best of the catering world, but making it more repetitive. This will be a product that people aren't going to have, you know, just for a wedding, or maybe, you know, like restaurants, it's just when someone feels like going out. Catering companies, restaurants, and cafes, you guys, if you got one of those, you're obviously aware, you're taking a little bit of a hit right now. There's shutdowns and all sorts of other things. There's events that aren't going on. A lot of stuff's been postponed or canceled, and you know, the occupancy, as long as this is going on, the occupancy with restaurants, depending on where you live, might not be all the way 100%. Not only not allowing people to go in, but then also with the economy the way it is, there might be less people who are able to afford catering or eating out at restaurants. So on top of the fear, on top of the restrictions, and on top of the economic reasons that your businesses are, you know, a bit hindered right now, if you look at the meal prep business, it's really not impacted the same way. A lot of meal prep companies are actually growing. They're essential, so they didn't have to get shut down. And those are some of the other benefits. But what I also want to draw your attention to is you're paying for rent. You're paying for that kitchen to exist. When that kitchen is not producing food that you're selling, you're still, you know, that's still your responsibility. So if you're able to get more production out of those same fixed costs that you have, it would be better for your bottom line, right? Can't increase the bottom line, or one of the easiest ways to increase the bottom line is by increasing the top line. If you don't have a top line, you don't have a bottom line to be worrying about. So depending on how the shutdowns and all these restrictions are affecting you, you know, this might be a great way to pivot and either supplement the loss or maybe completely reinvent your business. Now, as I mentioned before, when your kitchen isn't producing food, you should look at it as a loss. When you're closed overnight, you know, you're still having to pay for that liability of having that space available. It's not like you get to pay just for when you open the doors. No, you've got it for that entire month when you're paying rent, right? So one of the other things I want to draw your attention to is the fact that the meal prep production isn't as time sensitive as a restaurant production or a cafe's production might be. If I'm walking into your restaurant or I'm walking into your cafe and I'm sitting down to order food, you're going to be bringing me that food in a very short period of time. So you have to have a staff ready to go. You have to have all the ingredients purchased in advance. And when you make those purchases, you're hoping that I'm able to come in. You're hoping that the weather's not keeping me out. You're hoping that the shutdowns are allowing me to come in. You're hoping that I'm not afraid to come in. So all those things have to happen, and then I'm at the table expecting food within a half hour. So you have to have a staff there ready to make this food and go through that whole rigmarole, that whole process. The benefit of the meal prep business is, by design, you're collecting the orders in advance. You're truncating them. You'll have, the week prior is when you're going to be collecting the orders and the payments for the upcoming week. So by the time you're going into that week's production, you know how much food you need to purchase, how much food you need to manufacture, the labor and everything else. And what's beautiful is when the business is slow, you can actually have your staff working on the meal prep. Now, maybe you have a restaurant that doesn't open until 3 p.m. You could have the meal prep done before or after. Even if you're doing a whole, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I'm sure there's slow points where you can manufacture some of the stuff, like maybe throw some chicken breasts in and then put them aside in a refrigerator to cool down, and then you plate it later. You can have all these things either woven into your existing schedule, all these little productions where there's a sheet of chicken going in, a sheet of, a bunch of meatloafs being made or something in the slow points, or when the kitchen is completely shut down is when you do your manufacturing. Maybe you have a slow day, and that would be an ideal day. You know your schedule better than I do. You know when it's busy, so I won't go through all the different scenarios, but the idea is when it's not busy or when it's not being used at all, you can turn it into a money-making machine again, right? And you probably already know some staff who would probably love to get some extra hours, make some extra money themselves. You already know and trust these people. They know their way around the kitchen. You know the food that they can make. All sorts of reasons that this would be very easy to just add right on top of your existing business and infrastructure. Now, another beautiful thing is this, not only does it consolidate the production and the ordering and the income, but you're also able to make production more efficient by consolidating the workload. If you're able to put out hundreds of meals over the course of 2 shifts of production, between the cooking and the plating, the work hours, there's no downtime. There's never a point where between the lunch shift and the dinner shift it kind of slows down. You're able to have these people in there, and while they're in the kitchen, the labor is 100% going into working and producing a good that you are then going to sell through your service. So everything gets more efficient when you start adapting to the meal prep model. Now, caterers they're probably very familiar with this, because by nature, catering companies are also getting their orders in advance. They're getting the money in advance. They're able to plan all that stuff out. They can schedule it whenever they want, and then they show up. They just have to have the food made before the event, and then they show up. Same thing with this. If you're switching your cafe or restaurant or your ghost kitchen or whatever over to this model, it's the same thing. You know that the deliveries are going out Sunday night or whenever they're going out. The food just has to be made before then. Like I said, it makes it so much more flexible for you to put this business on top of an existing business and allow them to coexist. Now, one thing I always love to say is I've got a restaurant that's 4 counties wide. I've got a table in every kitchen, every living room, every office, every squad car. Anywhere people eat, they could be eating my product. Now, if you have a restaurant, you're obviously limited to a certain geographic area where people are going to be willing to drive to your physical location. Ghost kitchens, you're probably using like Uber Eats and Grubhub and alike, so you probably have a bigger reach because you're able to actually go to people, but still, it's probably not going to be so far. We service 4 counties in South Florida. So that allows us to basically service an hour and a half in one direction and an hour and a half in the other direction, because we're on the coast. So we really don't go west. We're between an ocean and the Everglades. So we go north and we go south, and we're right there in the middle. So an hour and a half in either direction. That's my restaurant's territory. There's no maximum. There's no occupancy limits. As big as I can market, as big as I can handle the production, is as big as this restaurant can be. So there's no limit on how many tables there are. There's no reservations. There's no waiting. If If I can get someone's attention and they want my service, I'll never have to turn anybody down as long as they're within those 4 counties. So how many people live within your restaurant's drivability? Probably not as many as 4 counties. So that's another thing to consider, is your reach expands significantly. You're able to sell your product to more people just based on the geographic limitations being removed. There's some meal prep companies that are shipping nationally. So now you just expanded your restaurant. You've got tables everywhere, theoretically. You just have to get in front of them, let them know you exist, and win their business. All right, now we're going to actually pause right here, and I'm going to split this episode up into 2 halves. But don't worry, you're not going to have to wait an entire week. Odds are you're probably watching this in the future, so it's already done anyway. But if you're watching this in real time, I basically just fell behind on my editing, and I wanted to make sure I had an episode to launch this week. So I basically split it up. I'm going to finish the second half tonight and probably have it ready in a couple of days for you guys to enjoy. If this is the first time you've seen my channel, I want to make sure that you're subscribed, that you've hit those alerts so you don't miss out on any of my new content, and that you check out the links in the show notes. Free ebook, free order tracking system, free software, free boot camp. I've got private groups. I've got consulting. All of that is on the other side of those links and at my website, mealprepbiz101.com. Again, that's mealprepbiz101.com right up here. There you go, right along there. I don't have the great coordination. You guys get the point. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're finding the content useful, and I look forward to helping you grow as a business, as an entrepreneur, and as an individual.